Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Guitar Souls podcast. We are back for episode 150. Yeah, sorry to let you guys down. Mike has obviously been away on tour. He has got back, but we haven't been able to slot in an episode this week. We're doing our best to try and deal with some scheduling issues. Hopefully, we'll be back next week. But I didn't want you to go without an episode. I want you to know that we still care about you. We still think about you. So I have put together a bonus episode for you. What we have today, I am going to be making public now the first ever Guitar Souls bonus episode that we put up on Buy Me a Coffee, I don't know, 6 months or so ago, before Buy Me a Coffee bent us over royally and ruined any potential there was there for us to do things. So this is going to be the bonus episode, the first ever bonus episode that we published, and in it, Mike teaches me how to play party cannon stuff. So this is a cool discussion on how to break down, or at least you get to see how I try and break down what Mike's doing, and he talks about how he thinks about those things, which is a very interesting look into the study of different styles of music and how you can approach one another's music and kind of find some sort of middle ground. So I really, really do hope that you enjoy it. As always, please do send us some fan mail to G-Souls Fan Mail. I'm pretty sure that when we do manage to get an episode in soon, it's going to be us going through the fan mail that we've got over the last 3 weeks. So yeah, again, one last time, I do hope that you enjoy this bonus episode. I apologise that it's not me and Mike sat here talking, but it will be me and Mike talking. It's just an older conversation. And as always, please do go and check out our friends over at Ormsby Guitars and Rev Amplification. Incredible people making incredible gear. Thank you so much, and we will see you for another episode very soon. Laters. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever Guitar Souls bonus episode. Oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be an absolute misery for me. This is coming to you thanks to our wonderful supporters over on Buy Me a Coffee. You guys are fantastic. Thank you very much for your kindness and support. You are helping the Guitar Souls NAM fund grow to the point where we might actually be able to go and do something, which will be kind of fun. And as a big thank you to you guys, we threw out the request to Chris Locke, our kind of top tier supporter, to ask him what he would like to see us do for our first ever bonus episode. And of course, these are open to change. We are still playing with the format, working out exactly what it is that you guys want and how to best deliver it. We have a kind of hashed together way of doing this today. What we're going to be doing is Mike is going to be teaching me a party cannon riff, and I will probably show Mike some country thing for him to go away and work on. But I don't think it's going to present nearly as much challenge as this part. I listened to the song beforehand, and it's like, yep, we are wasting time here. I'm not going to...
We're not wasting time. This is a fast riff, but see, once you understand the shapes of it,
sure,
it's fairly easy to follow. It's not... honestly, it's not as crazy as some of the other riffs. It's not just like through composed. It's like A, B, A, C. Okay. So you'll get to know the structure of it.
Right.
And you were saying that you wanted to kind of do a bit of analysis on it as well. We've got the tab up on screen.
We will do.
We will have, sorry, but Levi's got a copy here. For anybody that's interested in the tabs, once the album's out, I'll be more than happy to pass the tabs around and you can check them out.
Yeah.
I would do it before the album comes out, but we haven't really released any details about the album, so we're keeping that a wee bit stum.
Yeah.
But there are some cracking song titles. The name of the album's a belter, and some of the riffs are fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
and if you are watching this video and you want to play along, please do, because I think, for me, the most interesting thing about this podcast or this bonus episode is not going to be learning that I can't play something, because we can confidently say that before we start. The thing I'm interested in this is really getting a breakdown of Mike's approach to learning things like this, the complexity and the kinds of things that are going on in this style of playing, because it's a style of playing. I tease about it on the show all the time, but it's an area of playing that, it's two things. It's an area that I have no real knowledge of, and an area that I have no real interest in gaining a knowledge of, which isn't strictly true. I do like learning about everything, but like, there's never going to come a time where I become a proficient brutal death metal player. It's just never going to happen.
I don't know as much.
We'll
make a man out of you yet. I'll make a man of you yet. That was terrible.
There we go. The Guitar Souls sing along has happened.
I was so bad. Oh, I fucked that last note. Usually I can hit quite decent notes. The last couple of days my voice has been dead though. I was trying to sing in the car. What was I singing? something with 3 high notes, and when I was trying to sing the high notes, it was just like my voice was breaking, and it was making me go like a full tone above, and I kept laughing because it was like, or whatever the fuck it was. I can't mind.
This stream is, of course, is brought to you by our friends over at Ormsby, and we both have our Ormsby guitars out for this. Not only do we have our Ormsby guitars out, I don't know who has volume at the moment. Who has volume?
Both of us.
Not me.
Go.
So thank you very much to the guys over at Ormsby. We see what I did there? I showed off that we are recording guitars properly for this, rather than using an amp in the room type setup.
Yes. Hopefully that sounds good. Any feedback you guys have got, let us know. At the moment, we're not flying for the seat of our pants, but we're certainly we're coming up with creative ways to get around physical issues.
Yeah,
which is good. It's working.
Yeah. Moving forward, if this format works, if you guys like this, we will try and work out a way that we can set up a multi-camera angle thing for this, because we appreciate this is definitely not the ideal way to be viewing something like this. But we're also very aware of, like, we lost track of time. It's technically the first of the month as we film this, so our first bonus episode is already late. So,
well, we need to be fair, right? We used to do two episodes a month, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And now we do one a week.
Yeah.
So people are already getting a bit extra, which is nice.
Yeah.
Right. And we've both been dealing with some weird personal circumstances, as is the usual push for us, to be fair. So that's more of a giving context than making excuses.
Sure.
But it's coming, right? And
yeah.
Tell us, we want more, we want less, we want it this date, we don't want it monthly, we want it bi-weekly, we want you to do this, we want you to bring Album Club back, we want you to talk about this or do that. Like, just fucking tell us what you want. If you like this, brilliant. If you don't, tell us something else, and we'll try other stuff anyway.
I had assumed we were going to be doing Album Club here, so for Chris to request us to do something like this is kind of fun, and I do enjoy this. I think dreading it, though.
You shouldn't be. I think the other beautiful thing about it is it gives us a great opportunity to show off our guitars.
That is true.
You know what I mean?
That is totally fair.
We spent all this time talking about how much we love Ormsby, and how much we enjoy playing our instruments and whatever else, to then not really dive in and be like, well, it's not just about the bluster. This is how this is what they sound like and what they work well with. And
well, I mean,
we were saying this just off the stream. You were like, I can't believe that you love that 7-string and you're just playing all these riffs on it.
Yeah, it makes me happy, because for years, even when, like, I remember you ordering your first Ormsby, I was like, get a 7-string, get a 7-string. You should just get a 7-string. You should totally you tune your guitar to B, get a fucking 7-string. It will make your life a whole lot easier, and it will give you more options. And yeah, I
mean, it didn't hinder me.
Sure,
my guitars previously were tuned B, E, A, D, F sharp, B.
Yeah,
so just.
Do you just have that standard?
Full standard. B, E, A, D, G, B, E.
Okay. So yeah, you're adapting to it rather than tuning it to.
It doesn't need to be tuned any. Actually, it's funny you say that. Some of the tabs are actually on 7-strings. I think this one is tabbed on a 7.
It is.
Some of the party cannon stuff's tabbed in 6s, some it's tabbed in 7s. Okay. But the only thing that ever changes is when you get to the high strings.
Sure.
It's funny we're talking about the approach to some of the guitar to the party cannon stuff. On this song, I haven't made any position. In fact, no, I have. Sorry, in this very riff, I've made a change to how the tab goes and how I actually play it.
Right. For
my own economy. Craig does the same sometimes with the tabs, so same notes, different positions.
Sure.
But I think he plays this at the standard position that's on the tab, and I play it different.
Right. Okay.
Doesn't really cause any issues in terms of phasing or like intonation or that when we're doing it. And recording it or live, it's just much more comfortable for me to do it a certain way. Sure. Craig's not bothered about, because it's a crazy position change. It's like 1st fret to the 11th fret or something.
Right.
And you're doing 16ths and I think this bit of the song's at like 230 BPM or something.
Well, we could probably start out by, we can't play the audio for the actual recording because it's in a early stage of mix, and also we don't want to kind of give that away. But I am going to go on to the tab here for you guys, and it's this section here, right?
From there on, that's right. So there should be more than 16 bars of riff, I think.
Yeah, so I'm just going to play the tab just so people can get a feel for what I'm in for. Sounds something like this.
So you see how there's that crazy position shift on those last 3 bars, essentially.
From moving around here.
Exactly. So
Yeah. You know you have volume available at your disposal.
I know, sorry. Right, so, but I'm not playing the riff yet, I'm just talking.
Sure.
You want me to play it first?
Well, what I would like you to do, I think, is
Uh-huh.
I would like to bring you back up on screen.
Yes.
And give us a rough rendition of what that would sound like at something close to what you would consider the correct speed.
So kind of towards full speed?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me reposition myself so that the camera can see me play. Because I'm such an egotistical bastard. That's ought to be fun. Is there reverb or something on that?
No.
No. Oh fuck, I've fucked that terribly. We'll go one more time, eh?
Yeah.
Near enough there. I'll play it slow now because
Well, that was the point. So, when you listen to like the party kind of stuff, or certainly when I listen to the party kind of stuff, it's kind of like when, and I think most people listening to this now will have that feeling of what it's like to play heavy metal to like your parents have metal, and they will say it all just sounds like noise, right?
Yes.
And you have to understand where that comes from, of course, because at some point when you heard heavy metal, it sounded like noise.
Yes.
It's something that you train your ears to hear the detail of what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. It's an acquired taste for your ears.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. You get better in the same way that like when I first picked up musical instruments, I wanted to play the bass. I didn't know what bass guitar sounded like.
But that was the sound you had in your brain.
Well, no, it wasn't even that. It was like I liked the look of the bass guitar. And when I held a bass guitar, I liked the long neck, and it like felt really cool to play it. But even when I wanted to play bass, I couldn't put on a record and really tell you what the bass guitar was playing because I hadn't trained my ear to differentiate between different things.
Fair.
And this is kind of that to like a high level for me. So I think when people listen to the original Party Cannon recordings, it's hard to pick out the detail of what's going on. And even to a degree there when you were playing that at that high speed.
Don't be wrong, I played that very sloppily. Sometimes I play it quite well, sometimes I'm just fucking useless. And I think that's another part of the challenge of this music. Like, the days where you get it right, it sounds great.
Yeah.
The days where you're like, I need to keep practicing, it doesn't put you off, but it can certainly
Sure.
give you that mentality of, fuck me, I'm in for a challenge here.
What I would like to see you do now is play the same thing for me,
Nice and slow?
but yeah, slow, so we can get a feel for what's going on.
Okay.
And I'm going to make some comments on your playing afterwards.
Shite. So, probably have the microphone in front of me, Emma.
Don't give any tabs for it because I will bring the tabs up when we've got to do that. I literally just want you to imagine you've got a metronome click on and you're playing it at a slower speed.
Right.
Like, I want to hear the full context of the riff.
Essentially.
It's one of those things that I think when you listen to it like that, it makes a lot of sense. Like, you understand it. It's the sort of thing that I think anybody listening to this could write. I could write something like that.
You
Not
totally
a
could.
problem. It's but yeah, it's the speed at which it's executed.
I think it doesn't help any that it doesn't have any traditional melody involved. A lot of it's like maybe like a full step and then a half step and a lot of chromaticism.
Yep.
And I think it's more about weird shapes than it is about the music making sense.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Certainly in the way that the riff's structured. So the first thing you've got is that 2-1-3-2.
And this is the thing that I've always noticed from when I watch you play the party cannon stuff. It's the relaxation that you have in your fretting hand, moving between these power chords. It looks like your hand's just sliding around the fretboard like this, but you're doing it with a lot of confidence and accuracy. And I think that is one of the primary challenges of being able to play this stuff at speed. The accuracy and relaxation you have to have in the hand. It's so easy to tense up when you play.
I still do. I find that, especially live, the first couple of songs, I get a lot of hand cramp.
Right.
And I have to, like, not work through it, but start repositioning my shoulder or my wrist while I'm playing and still trying to be in it till I get to the point where either my hand warms up enough or the muscles that I'm concerned about aren't quite as sore anymore, or I'm just like, fuck it, if I'm sore, I'll just keep going. If I get RSI, I get RSI. If my thumb falls off, I'll be all right.
What's more brutal death metal than dying of hand pain?
I'd say what's more brutal than that is a true story. Serge, the guitarist from Epicardiectomy. Hi Serge, if you're listening, you probably aren't. Toured with him the first time we went to the States, and Parasitic Ejaculation with the other band on the tour. And Serge potentially broke his pinky at one of the gigs, didn't tell anyone, and played the rest of the tour. He also fell asleep outside in Texas and woke up next to the pool in the morning. He'd been out drinking all night, so you can only imagine the hangover that man had.
And the level of sunburn, I'd imagine.
He's Russian, he was all right, actually.
Okay.
He's fucking hard and stuff, there, Serge.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring it up and get a look at lay of the land, if you like.
Let's do it.
Because it's one of those weird things. Like, when you're learning something like this, how do you go about doing it? Because for me, my history in terms of like learning is obviously very, very academic, and I'm doing like you see me learning the piano stuff, and you saw me playing the Mario thing today, and you're like, Jesus, you've come some amount quickly. But because my comprehension of rhythm is very good and my reading is very good, like that piece that I was playing when you came in, I started learning that yesterday. It's not difficult for me to put things together because I have a system in place for learning, and I'm using the reading.
You understand what the chords are made up of and where they move. It's a case of getting your fingers into the habit of moving into those places in the right time. I get that, like, it's totally understandable. I think it's probably the same thing for the party cannon stuff for me these days. I get to know specific shapes or kind of licks that we use in different places. For example, any variation of or it's probably in any party cannon song you could pick up.
Right.
Like, those are just things that happen in quite a lot of the songs.
But so I think what I'm latching onto there is you're talking about like physical movements, things that are likely to happen, and we can address things like that when it comes to any of our favorite guitar players. They all have like patterns that fall naturally under their hands, and therefore they tend to play those types of things. Yeah. And for me, I guess I'm interested in when you're learning something like this. Would it be a case of you sitting down with it and going, "Do I have volume? Give me."
Sorry, mate. When you go, not sure.
So would you be looking at this and going, "Apparently, I can't do that."
That's the problem. There we go.
I just didn't think it mattered all that much.
It doesn't, not live.
Sure. So would you be looking at that and going, just trying to get a feel for where the notes are? Or is there more a degree of like, because for me to practice something like this, I would be looking at it and I can see what the rhythm is.
Yep.
I know it's the eighth note feel that we've got going on there. I'll highlight the bit that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I would be looking at literally just something like that, and I would have I actually don't really use a metronome anymore, but I'd have a sense of what time is in my mind.
You look at that and you know it's going to go and you're playing.
So yeah, I would be taking that and going.
Break it up into segments and chunks.
Yeah, until that became really comfortable.
There's a lot of the riffs. There are a lot of riffs that include that kind of thing. Again, the hardest part, I think, of learning the party cannon stuff, for me, not speaking for anyone else, but certainly for me, was getting familiar with the language per se that the band uses, the different approaches that we take, and the kind of common themes that run throughout the songs, and that like fast power chord movements anywhere across the neck is common in our songs. And there's bits that are like, I mean, Duct Tape to a Flagpole, the intro to that's just but it's played.
Now, I want you to do that again for us, and
Yep.
I want people to be able to see your fretting hand moving when you're doing this, so people can see that kind of relaxation that I'm talking about.
That's repeat. to get into the rest of the quote.
Yeah, to me, that's really the terrifying part, and that's the aspect of this that I know I'll never be able to nail. Like, playing things with that level of relaxation at that level of speed is going to be tricky, whereas I know that I can sit and look at this and go, I'll get that, and then I'll spend some time going, sorry, let me bring tab up for people.
That's all right.
Then I will spend some time going, okay, I'll get that. How would you be fingering that? 2, 1, 4, 3?
2, 1, 4, 3.
Yeah, and then
2, 3, 1, 2.
2. Okay, so yeah,
And
like
then
finger per fret type thing.
3, 4, 1, 2.
All right, let me get.
And that's open to interpretation. If that's not how you would want to finger it,
Yeah.
you can do it any way you want.
Let me
The
take-
thing about the tabs are there's no fingering directions or position change directions. It's just here's the frets that we play it on. If you want to use other frets that are the same note, then help yourself.
I don't know if people have really considered this, but it's not something that I guess I do it more subconsciously on guitar, but from learning piano, I have made much more of a conscious effort when I am learning a melody to really drill in the exact fingering that I'm using for it, rather than thinking to myself, well, these are the notes that I have to play, let's see what happens. And I think with this, like, having a very solid idea in my mind of what I need to play and how I'm going to finger that. So give me a second with it. So that's okay, go.
So that's going to be impossible for you.
I mean, yeah, fine, but at speed.
The thing comes with speed the more you practice it. And this is the beautiful thing about using Guitar Pro and having tabs. Obviously, you can go in and loop that at 50%,
Yeah.
then 60, then 70, or you can set the loop where it continually goes up by 5%.
Yeah.
Or you can just leave it looping. Because what I find is if there's parts where I'm really no catching the rhythm or just getting it nailed, I'll listen to it a few times over. Just get myself familiar with what the MIDI sounds like. It's not like the guitar, it doesn't give you too much guidance. But it at least gives you an idea of what frets you should be playing, what the notes are supposed to ring out like, how long they're going to last, and the kind of context of how it's going to go. In my mind, I think I've spoke to you about this before as well. Like, when I was younger, the way I thought about it was like, I can either get really into jazz and start playing stuff that people don't want to hear, or I can get into death metal and start playing stuff that people don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Because you fall off the deep end of it's no longer about traditional melody, it's no longer about traditional timing, it's going outside the box.
Yep.
And this is just going outside the box in a different context. It's taking abstract melody or certain things. Like there is a Party Cannon song that's based on a Charlie Parker bass line.
Yeah.
Or one of the riffs that Chris wrote, which is fucking mental in my mind. That there could be a song that's
You can do that.
loosely jazz based. But you know what I mean? It's cool. I like that. It makes it interesting. But for approaching it, as you're saying there, like, see, just taking it at wee chunks, absolutely is the best way to do it. The rhythm parts, a lot of the rhythms can be fast moving in different position changes, so that, generally speaking, is like a tab to 50% and just play it for a bit.
Yep.
Unless it's something that's similar to one of the riffs we've had before or recorded before, and then maybe a wee bit of muscle memory kicks in.
So you are talking about using Guitar Pro as a practice tool, which is
that's how I learn the songs. So
Sure.
Party Cannon's creative process generally is, if Martin or I come up with ideas, then we'll record ourselves playing them,
right,
rather than tabbing them out first, and then we build from there.
Okay.
When Chris and Craig are writing, who do the predominant majority of the writing, to be fair to them, they usually tab things out and then learn them. So Chris, specifically, as far as I know, his process generally is he comes up with a riff in his head, or he gets an idea for a riff, he tabs it either on his computer or on his phone. Honestly, the only guy in the world I know that uses Guitar Pro on his phone.
I've tried it, it's
efficiently.
dire.
But Chris writes full songs in it, programs the drums and everything. Anyway, or tabs out an idea and takes it home and builds it. But Chris is really good at almost finishing the song on Guitar Pro, because
Sure.
I think he knows what he likes to hear and he knows
Sure.
what should come next in his brain, how he feels the song should flow, etc. So he'll program both guitar parts, including harmonies or whatever other bits that are in there. The bass, which doesn't, generally speaking, doesn't really follow what the guitar's doing. For like fast rhythm parts, it'll probably be the root notes and stuff, but
Yeah.
there's plenty more going on the bass than the guitars when the guitars are quiet.
Right.
As you heard yourself with the tracks.
Yeah.
And the drums are all programmed in on Guitar Pro for Martin, just to have a baseline of, do you think that sounds good, or like you
Right.
can write what you want round it, but this is generally how that section feels, and
Yeah.
you do what you want round about it. So
Sure.
he's got an idea of the structure and the feel and the speed and stuff as well. So it's a bit of a weird process. We have actually been doing that since before even lockdown. So when it came to lockdown and learning this album, which pretty much all of we've learned remotely and only managed to jam all together a few times, maybe more than a few times, but not as much as a band that's been working on an album for a year and a half should be. But it's actually worked out pretty good, because the method we've had before has been learning stuff remotely and then bringing it into the studio and just playing it with each other.
Yep.
And then getting to know the feel of it live in the room versus just what you've learned off the tab.
Sure.
That's kind of worked out in our favour, because that's where we were kind of before, you know?
Yeah, I've been looking at it a little bit more, and I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
So, because to me, actually, when you played me this, I was a little bit relieved, because it's not the
Crazy chords everywhere.
Yeah.
I wanted something that was a bit noodly, but isn't like miles out of your wheelhouse. It's something that takes a bit of finger articulation. I know you've got that anyway with your country stuff.
Sure.
It's fairly fast and it's still quite complicated,
Yeah.
but it's not beyond playing.
I mean, it should be clear. The struggle for me on this is absolutely going to be
Speed.
Keeping this hand up. When I was listening to the song before we recorded, I was just trying to play along to it, just playing just a static note, which people take for granted. Like, being younger, I kicked ass at that, obviously. But that's a skill that you have to maintain, and because it's
Yes.
not something I do anymore at high speed. Not the worst.
It's still not bad, you see.
But faster.
Still pretty good. I mean, there's another riff that I could show you that's the first riff in a song that is just...
Go on.
This is about the right tempo.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm looking at the audio peaks for this, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is going to be fun for.
And then you talking about your fucking... I don't like the slidey chord bits. Can't even play it myself.
So the question I had for you when,
Yes.
when looking at this tab is, as I've played through it, you've got this part here, and like, there's a lot of ways you could do this. But when I first heard it, my initial thought is that this is very reminiscent of the types of things that you learn when you're playing gypsy jazz stuff, because Django only had access to those fingers 1 and 2. So you could do a lot of that stuff, a lot of the Django runs where you have that chromatic movement. There's a lot of that going on here.
Yes.
So I couldn't decide when looking at this part here that I have highlighted if you would want to be playing that like finger per fret, so going like starting with my middle finger and then using my ring finger and then my index and then my middle finger. So sorry, I'm used to reading tab wrong. There we go. I'm used to having a 6-string tab and playing a 7-string and being able to correct. Try again. So yeah. Now I'm going to bring that up on screen so people can see what I'm doing there, how I'm fingering that.
Yep.
Which I mean, it totally makes sense to do it like that.
Yeah.
I should read it, shouldn't I? Where I'm using all of my digits.
Yep.
Whereas it would probably just be just as easy for me to play that entire thing with just 2 fingers. Is that? bit of practice. I think I'd have a better chance of getting it down like that than the dexterity the other way. And I assume you're not doing it like that.
Not in this song. There's a couple of riffs where I'll just use 2 fingers because it's easy enough to just go like almost like. But when I've learnt that as a lick, which is a lick that features in a lot of songs in different positions, I do it where I consider my middle finger as the middle note.
Right.
So when I'm looking at it in the tab and that says 5, 6, 4, 5, I know that 6 is where I need to be. So it's like, 5. And I just move that shape about,
Right,
and because my fingers are super comfortable with it, as long as I move efficiently, it still comes out clear. So the High Five Ghost, they're a bit in that. So that's the kind of like those shapes.
Chaos.
Oh, there's way more chaos in the album than these things. So aye.
So I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to play a little bit on it just so people can see my struggle and how I'm be learning something like this. Because the way I see it, I've got 4 bars of this. And then it's already forgotten.
Well done, that's good. So the second playthrough is essentially the first 3 bars are exactly the same, and the last bar changes.
So yeah, looking at the tab. Then we've got a run of triplets.
It's a bit an awkward one, that one. And that's one that approach is what I use.
1 and 2.
Just like, well, I use, strangely I use 1 and 3. It's like fucking, sounds like frantic disembowelment.
Absolute fucking chaos, mate. So then looking at it again, same as the first time?
The first 3 bars are exactly the same.
That's the same as the first time.
So that's ABA, and then the last one is all just 16ths tremolo picked, which goes.
So you think of that as being tremolo picked rather than being
on the recording, and because it's so fast, you may as well just tremolo pick it, and it adds to the chaos because it's the end of that bar. The blasts are fast as fuck.
Sure.
Everything's coming in, and then there's that stab at the very end that lets the drums ring out. So in my mind, and the way it's been recorded, that bit's like just the big mega crazy climax before it goes into the very last riff, which doesn't slow down actually, just changes rhythm.
Right.
But and this is what I'm talking about with the position change. So on the tab you're doing 2, 1, 3, 2, and then going all the way up to 8 and 11, and then 7, 10. So whereas in my mind it makes more sense to just do a string skip.
Sure.
And just be basically in the same position down the neck.
Yeah.
Kinda, and rather than way up here at doing like 8 and 11, just do 3 and 6 on your A string.
So I think if I was going to learn something like that, and obviously I am learning something like that, so let's do it the way I do it, probably the wrong way of doing it, I would, I'd just be looking at what the 8th note pattern here would be so I can get that fingering down, which appears to be... And then you would...
Imagine it's diminished.
You do that, I'm going to have to... so I find it interesting...
Well, I'll show you the shapes, how my brain...
No, because I can adjust it really
Of course
quickly
you can.
in Guitar Pro like this. So I assume you'd be keeping that on the E string?
I would move those other last notes as well, so 1, 4. That's it. And then the same again for that last part of that bar, and then that stays the same.
Yeah.
So that's how I play it, which is funny enough. I never changed the tab or anything. I didn't see the point. But looking at it the way it is, the riff to me goes. No.
It's funny because like as a line, it does make a lot of melodic sense. 'Cause there is a consistency to it.
Yeah, that like when it comes to like rhythms and shapes and familiar patterns and repeating itself, and I don't want to say memorability. It's not the kind of riff that you could whistle and be like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Sure.
But you're right. Like once you hear the notes and you get an idea of where it's flowing to, you could work it out.
So let's give it a go. And then it makes a lot of sense.
And then a stab at the end. Well, there are parts of it that are really straightforward but don't sound it.
Three, four.
Feels as if I've let you off light here.
Oh, brutal, painful. But with a lot of practice, it's for me. I guess a lot is relative. The amount of time I'm willing to put in, with a lot of practice, it's going to get marginally better than that. It would take me months, years to. It could, not just this riff specifically, but it's a tool set. It's a skill, a very specific skill set. You know, we roll with and engage with some of the best players on the planet.
Oh, aye.
Yeah, like I know Martin Miller's a big fan of the show.
Martin's a fucking diamond.
Martin's an incredible player. There's
That's
just
it.
no
Big
ifs,
Jack
ands, or
as well.
buts about it.
Big Jack Gardner.
There's tons of great players out there, but like you couldn't if
Tom
Craig
Wonder.
couldn't hit the gig, if Craig couldn't make a tour,
Aye.
there's no giving this gig to Martin Miller. It's not in his wheelhouse in terms of like the physical thing that you need to be able to do. So you've got to, put
You
in
hearing
the-
this, Martin? He's challenging you.
I mean, if you want a third guitarist for a party cannon tour, I think Martin would think it would be hilarious to
I would
go
love that.
on the road with,
Martin and friends, and it's like, oh, them doing really nice tunes. And then I come on stage and it's like, right, it's time for him to annoy everybody.
See, my picking just falls apart.
That's where the difficulty comes in, because you're jumping between economy and what do you call it, fucking alternate picking, because you're jumping strings and stuff, and you can find yourself being. It's weird. Like, I feel as if I don't necessarily just always do down up when I jump strings. Sometimes, like if I'm doing an up here, I'll do a down when I go back down. If I do a down, I'll do an up.
I wouldn't even consider that. For me, it would be strict as all shit.
There's a lot of times where being a creature of you think you can get the full thing?
No. So what's the tempo on that? Because obviously I'm playing that a fair bit slower. Well, I guess I can play and get a feel.
On the actual tab, I think it's about 230. Also,
So I'm a little bit off.
also, it's 210. No, it's not, sorry.
That's where it changes.
Aye. These tabs are fairly accurate to the actual MIDI maps. That's 260. Fuck.
260, yeah.
That's very accurate to, if not exactly to the click that Martin uses.
Sure.
There's maybe a variance of 10, maybe 20 BPM at most.
Sure.
But there are bits in these songs where like we'll play them in the studio and we'll be like, Martin, have you just turned your fucking metronome up? And he's like, no, it just sounds faster because we're playing it live.
Yeah.
And I think, have you ever found that yourself, right? And anybody that's listening or watching, feel free to chime in. Have you ever found that you could write a riff that you think might be really fast, and then you play it in the studio and it feels even faster? No, and I'm being serious. I don't mean that as in like it's more difficult to play. I mean when you're playing it, you're like, fuck me, this is so much faster than I remember practicing it. And I think a big part of that is the application of force of having a live drummer versus you just sitting playing something in the house.
Also, I think the pressure of being recorded, that adds that additional layer of like, I would probably be 5%, and I'm just going to go 5%, 5% better at doing this if the camera wasn't on, you know?
Aye, okay, fair enough, yep.
Okay, so I'm going to try it because we're running short on time. I mean, there's not a fucking hope in hell, mate. Not a hope in hell. But I like it. I do like it. It's fun.
I'm going to pick
fun.
the parts that I think you would enjoy the most to analyse and see if I can make you a Party Cannon fan.
I mean, that seems really unlikely.
I know, but that's the challenge.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's any other mental riffs in this song that you could look at just for a laugh.
Okay, I've got it. I've nailed it.
Not far off. That's not how I play it.
I think that's how most no, fuck it, I'm gonna go most. It's quite a niche genre. I think that's how most people hear it when they're playing.
Absolutely, and I think there's a lot of times where live bands will do that. I'm not being daft, but it's all part of the texture of it. The real super defined moments are the bits where the guitar clearly needs to have harmony in it, or it's setting like some sort of tone to it, or the slower parts. Like you wouldn't want somebody getting the slams sloppy. You wouldn't want somebody playing the bits that are rhythmically. Like you wouldn't want those bits to be sloppy, but when it's
as fuck.
Fast and crazy. Don't get me wrong, fast, crazy, and tight is unbelievable. Credit to bands like Origin and shit that do fucking ridiculous speeds. But you're not going to decipher too much of it being out. Certainly not live when there's so much going on.
Sure.
And that can kind of add to the frenzy.
Sure.
Quite a few bits in the recordings we could have overdubbed and made them super, super tight and like clinical. But there's bits on it where like we chose not to.
But in all honesty, like I've listened to the recordings and it sounds really fucking tight.
The stems are really good on it. And then as soon as it went to York to get mixed, which was only just during the week there, we only got those files last night.
Right.
And those are the first two of, I think it's 9 or 10 on the album.
Yeah.
And I think those were the first two alphabetical. And he basically just went, right, cool, I'm going to have a fuck about it and give you a general idea of how it sounds.
Yeah.
I'd been listening to it bounced with no mix.
Yeah.
And I was like, even like the fucking stems sound good, the guitars sound good, the drums are punchy, it's tight, it's well edited for the wee bits that needed edited, but it's not over edited. It's definitely not like clinical studio sound.
Cool.
But I think you're right. When it came back for York, I'm like, if that's the general direction, I'm into it. It's like nasty enough to sound like death metal. Yeah. But it's like, and it sounds like it's been produced enough to listen to.
I think there's potential for this as a format. This has been a little bit more fun than I actually expected it to be. I am going to cut the show short here now because I've got delivery coming soon.
We've all got lots of things to get on with the day, unfortunately. That's just real life, innit?
I've got two podcasts to edit now as well, which will be glorious.
You'll have much to edit in them, surely.
Sure, they should be relatively easy. But yeah, I think that we'll
you needed one.
We'll do another episode of this where we switch it up and we do some country. I'll teach Mike. I
would love for you to show me some stuff for your book. Genuinely. I was thinking about this the other night. I know this is a new format. I've not even chatted to you about this, so this is an open process. As we've already put out there, anybody that's watching or listening can give us an idea of what they think. I don't imagine many people will be listening to this as a podcast because it's all about watching us play guitar and looking at tabs.
Sure. Yeah.
But for those out there that are listening, you like to torture yourself in ways that I do not know, and I like it. But I think you've got your book there already, which is learning, or your books even. You've already got syllabuses there that are supposed to be progressing you to a point of knowing the vocabulary and understanding it. If you want to start dissecting parts of that, or even just giving me exercises out the book to do, I would love to learn some of that stuff.
Well,
and I can try and do the same with our tabs, try and get like an idea of...
I have tested you, remember?
You've tested me a few times.
What intervals do you have in the dominant 7 chord?
Don't do this, come on. Don't. Dominant 7 is flat 5.
No.
No?
No.
Just normal 5 and major 3rd. You know the worst part being? My next sentence was going to be, I bet you're going to start testing me on my fucking theory. I'm not even kidding. I was thinking to myself there, why did I fucking start mentioning this?
That'll be a big part of like looking through book stuff because it's understanding things, not just...
Quite honestly, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. I know it's like I kid on, I don't like being put in the spot. This is a safe space. I don't mind talking to you about these things. Poor choice of words for me sounding like a fucking, this is a safe space and I don't like being criticised. Like, I can take it in the chin. I'm a big fat hairy guy. It's all right. But I would really like to get into it more, and who better to show me than the guy that's fucking wrote the book?
Fair point.
Literally wrote the book.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. So, this was great fun. And I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to this or watching this.
I tell you what I'll do as well. Obviously, we can't give out the full tabs, and I don't have the recordings to give out just yet because the album's not been released. By the way, do you want to do a listening party when the album comes out?
Oh yeah.
You into it?
Yeah,
Sound.
yeah,
Right.
definitely. That'd be great fun.
And we'll get Melissa and Nancy in.
Yeah.
So
It'd
we
be mainly
can
just
talk
me
to them.
sat here going,
Oh, that's just wait. Just you wait.
I heard the sample at the start of it. Was this song, wasn't it? The sample at the start of this one.
No, that was Bum Eyes.
Oh, okay.
Bum Eyes. What a fucking song title.
As always, big thank you to our friends over at Ormsby Guitars. Go and check out Ormsby Guitars. Run 16, isn't it, the new run?
Yes. Yours is a run 9, I believe, and that was a 13, 12?
Is it as far back as 9?
For the Goliaths, I think so.
Wow. Run.
Maybe an 11. Maybe I'm talking shit.
Head on over to the Ormsby website and check out
Absolutely.
the pre-orders on the latest runs.
The beautiful thing is, I know Perry's chomping at the bit, but also taking his time to get the new website up, and I think once that's up, it'll look incredible. I know they've been working really hard on that, and I'm excited about it because I think the reverb's going to be tied into it too.
I think there's only one thing that really matters, right? And that is, see this? You cannot get one of these.
I'm going to tell Perry that the next run they've got to do a Red Dead just to upset you.
I mean, they should, because people do want it. And to be fair, although I wanted a Red Dead, this isn't a Red Dead in the same way that the Red Dead finishes are a Red Dead. You know what I mean? Like the Red Deads that you see on the hypes, etc., because they have the binding and the black around the edges, like really fucking dark and deep. This does, I think, if he does a Red Dead Goliath, it won't look like this. I think it'll be a lot more pronounced than this. So this is always going to be a one of a kind.
To be fair to you, I've kind of said the same thing about my hype. Obviously, that's been one colour painted by the guys in the shop, and they don't know what the colour is.
Yeah.
So I can't even patch where it's got wee blemishes. But that, I think that adds the character to it.
Yeah, you totally can. You totally can. We can take you down to B&Q, the Valspar paint section.
Put it in the machine.
You could literally, they'll scan the paint.
But the problem is that house paints don't have candy through them.
Fair point.
That was like a kind of pink red base coat of some kind, but it's metallic.
Right.
But it's also like a silk metallic. And then I think there was a spray over the top of it of like orangey red gold, kind of like Ando's.
Yeah.
But really thin, and then the lacquer. I don't know if that's still on it or if that was part of the top coat, but it only really showed up when I first got the guitar. I was like, fucking, there's like depth to this. And since then, it's kind of just been the cool shell pink almost.
Sweet.
Love it. Love it. Perry,
So,
more guitars, please. Thank you.
This has been great fun. Mike, until next time,
Stay hydrated.
head on over to Buy Me a Coffee, buy us a coffee. I mean, everybody watching this already has bought us a coffee, to be fair. So
Aye.
thank you very much. You guys are awesome.